With Chase Elliott going past the line under the checkered and yellow flags, it marked the end of the first year of the new Atlanta Superspeedway experiment. An experiment that has given some fans new revitalized hope for the track and others existential dread for the track. But I'm not here to talk about just those in a vacuum. What I want to talk about is where we go from here. What I want to see and talk about and have others talk about is the future of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Is this a long-term option? Well, first off, I think we have to look at two things: reception and overall racing and where that leads. So quickly, let's get to reception. The first race saw a huge crowd for the standards of Atlanta Motor Speedway. I personally would guess probably around 55,000 or around 80 to 90% full of a 71,000 seated Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is not bad in modern NASCAR whatsoever, especially getting out of the COVID pandemic and especially with the economic problems that the country is seeing at the moment. So I would say in all aspects of that, it was a huge success. This was the biggest Atlanta Motor Speedway crowd for a NASCAR race since 2014 or 8 years before, where NASCAR was much more popular than it is today. Also, this was the most watched Atlanta race in general since 2019, a 3-year mark where it was over 4 million viewers, which in modern day NASCAR terms, again, when it's not the Daytona 500, is a very, very good thing. The second race, though, did see a lot of stuff go down. Now, we're not going to know the TV ratings for a little bit, and the TV ratings will be the large judgment pattern to see where the direction of the Speedway is going when it comes to the wider audience. But when you look at the crowd, well, it left a lot to be desired. The crowd was very minimalistic, even for Atlanta Motor Speedway. I would say it was probably close to maybe 15 to 20,000 fans there. It was very, very sparse. Possibly the smallest crowd they've had in modern NASCAR history. And I think a lot of that has to do with the weather. It was blisteringly hot in the middle of the summer in Atlanta, and there were thunderstorms threatening for the entire weekend. So that's not something that should be taken lightly. And on top of that, you have 2 races at a track that really only can support 1. So that's the reception that we look at overall. Now, what are they receiving? Well, the racing. Now, while there was a lot of mystery coming into this season with Atlanta, what we got was a mini super speedway race with a little bit more importance, especially in the second race, on handling. In my opinion, it was similar to a pre-2011 Daytona, where you would see these guys kind of string out. There'd be long lines, and you would have a lot of people stringing out around the high side to keep momentum up in the draft. And then the way you made passes was by going down low, kind of creating a slide job, and then sliding back in line ahead of someone. Similar to things that guys like Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon did. And this was perfected by drivers like Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. And all in all, it's not the worst kind of racing, and I do think that it got better from the first to second as the teams and drivers understood more what the assignment was. Though I have to ask, because this is brand new, smooth as a baby's bottom asphalt, what happens when the pavement starts to weather and wear? Because we've seen in Atlanta Motor Speedway history that is exactly what happens, and it gets very abrasive very quickly. I mean, the new Atlanta that we had before this new Atlanta was repaved in the late 90s, and by the mid-2000s was a very worn-out track that had really great racing. So in 6 or 7 years, when this track is the equivalent of maybe a 2003 or 4 Daytona, then we need to start asking, what's the racing going to look like? And I think there's 2 options that NASCAR can go with. They can go with an even slower plate race, something that has them puttering around at 150 to 160 miles an hour, where handling is a huge issue, and they're probably going to go single file. Or they can go with a heavily banked super speedway intermediate, where you don't have the super speedway package, you go with a full-blown intermediate package, but the speeds will be higher with the higher banking. It seems like this kind of racing we've had in the last race has generally been accepted by fans, though there is a sizable contingent that's still against it. And when I say accepted by, I mean those who like it and those who accept it as well. Not that everyone is a huge positive on it. I think there's a large swath of fans in the middle who could go either way if this kind of racing goes south, which leaves a big conundrum for SMI and NASCAR to go with. My biggest question is the long-term viability of all the changes they made to this track. Listen, Road America, COTA, and Nashville all proved this year that the second edition of a race will not or may not live up to the hype that the first year got. If you look, for instance, at COTA the first year, there was a lot of hype at the track, and it kind of died down after the first year, though that was a bit of a disaster of a race. When you look at Nashville, it was in a big market, had a track that had never been in the Cup Series before, sold out. Next year, good crowd, not great crowd, and weather got in the way of that. But then you look at Road America, that's probably the best 1-to-1 ratio you got. You got probably 120,000 people showing up in 2021, and while there was probably close to 100,000 this year, it was noticeably down in pretty much every way, including on TV with the ratings. So NASCAR and SMI have to do something different with Atlanta, and in my opinion, they have to build on it. If it's just another race or just another 2 races next year that nothing changes whatsoever, this track will fail. This track will go back to having 1 date, and that date will probably be underwhelming when it comes to how many people are watching. You have to give the viewers something to come back for. This race, or the races it might have at this track, need to be strategically placed so that both the schedule and the TV broadcast can win. So in my opinion, the spring race, it fits perfect, and it feels like the best place for the first race if you're going to have 2. It fits well with the opening momentum of the season, as NASCAR is really hinging upon the opening 5 to 6 races being bangers, being really good, keeping viewers in for the rest of the 30 to 31 races of the season to do well. And also, it has better weather, which has been proven by the last few races there when you look at them early in the spring versus a bit later in it. Now, the second race is where I think the big things and changes need to be made. And for this one, I think it fits perfectly as a 4th of July weekend race. I know a lot of people are against that, but I think it makes some sense. Hear me out. This can be a night race, even a Sunday night race, which is proven to be really big for ratings for NASCAR when it is a scheduled Sunday night race, even with rain. Look at the Easter race at the Bristol Dirt Track. Now, this race must also be on NBC, not on NBCSN if that were still around, not on USA, not on Peacock, big NBC. You need to maximize viewership. And again, we're not going to know what this could or couldn't do until we find out the ratings. But if the TV ratings for the 2022 race are near, at, or even over 2.5 million, it will be a massive win and success for NASCAR and a big push to show that this should be put on the big channel. Why? Maximize the viewership. Treat this as a new Southern-born tradition for the 4th of July. Things that NASCAR fans, especially hardcore ones, will grasp on damn near command, and newer fans will come to as a great entertaining race. Over time, you can establish it with these 2 dates as the 3rd super speedway and maybe get some of those casual viewers that only watch Daytona and Talladega to add in 2 more races their season. It's not very far-fetched, and it takes care of the fans at the racetrack and probably will get you higher attendance. When the fans aren't basically baking alive the way that one would as, say, an egg would to a blacktop, I think they're going to be more inclined to show up. Plus, if you do it later in the night, you can maybe avoid some of those mid-afternoon summer thunderstorms that are very common pretty much anywhere in the US when it gets hot like this. Overall, it'd be a huge win, and SMI gets a giant prestigious date that fans still respect and revere to this day. But that's just my thoughts on all this. Now I want to hear what you think. And tell me in the comments down below, what do you think NASCAR should do with Atlanta in 2023? Go down to 1 date, keep it at 2 the way it is, make massive changes. What should it be? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. And to all my channel members, thank you so much for your continued support. It means a ton for the channel. So until next time, have a good one.